General Hospital spoilers are out for the week of June 23, 2025. Fans might anticipate to see Daisy Gilmore Corinthos' baptism. Daisy Gilmore Corinthos' christening. Let us begin with baby Daisy, who is set to be christened. Of course, Sasha Gilmore Corbin's loved ones will be present. Even if Michael Corinthos agreed to Sasha's requirements, I'm sure there will be one or two Corinthos at the christening. There is also the possibility that someone has been watching the baby. Jordan Ashford's memories. As Portia Robinson lashes out, Curtis Ashford devotes more time to reconciling with his ex-wife, Jordan Ashford. A preview clip for Monday shows Jordan and Curtis lounging by the pool. Jordan laughs, recalling a pleasant memory. Curtis and Jordan appear to be on the verge of a significant reconciliation. Carly Spencer's plea. General Hospital spoilers for the week of June 23 show Carly Spencer pleading with Michael. Despite Michael's full and sole custody of Wiley and Amelia Corinthos, Carly attempts to reason with her son. Carly questions Michael's decision to permanently remove Willow Tate Corinthos from the children's lives. Week of June 23, 2025. Tracy Quartermaine will also make a public appearance. Brooke Lynn Quartermaine and Dante Falconeri discuss Giovanni Gio Palmieri. Later in the week, BLQ dislikes something she observes. Brooke Lynn and Harrison Chase are also making a discovery on Friday. Meanwhile, Lulu Spencer offers some counsel to Lucas Jones. Marco Rios makes a delivery followed by a discovery. Drew receives insider information. Sonny Corinthos is in for a shock. Jason Morgan gives Dante a new viewpoint. Alexis Davis searches out Elizabeth Liz Baldwin. This is obviously about Christina Corinthos Davis, but what will be the outcome of the discussion? Meanwhile, Martin Gray receives devastating news. In addition, Anna must answer difficult questions. Cody Bell, on the other hand, strictly adheres to commands. Trina Robinson had no idea that Daisy's baptism would be the catalyst for everything to fall apart. She had envisioned it as a beautiful, even sacred celebration of love, healing, and the miracle of new life following a year of deception and tragedy in Port Charles. The ceremony was intended to be a watershed moment, where wounds might be healed and bridges discreetly rebuilt. But that ideal was destroyed the moment Drew Kane strolled through the chapel's doors, carrying secrets rather than blessings. Trina had noticed Drew acting suspiciously in the weeks preceding the catastrophe. She'd noticed how he stayed too long around critical conversations and always seemed to know things he shouldn't. She did not want to think the worst. After all, Drew had been through so much: prison, treachery, and reintegration into a family that was nothing like the one he'd left behind. However, something in his eyes had changed. There was a chilly calculation beneath his charm now, a detached hunger that bothered her more than she wanted to acknowledge. Still, she gave him the benefit of the doubt, until the day of his baptism. The ceremony had gone smoothly. Daisy, tiny in her ivory baptism gown, had been the embodiment of innocence, a living symbol of new beginnings. Spencer, despite his weaknesses, had been visibly moved. His love for his child had transformed him. Trina stared at him for the first time and felt hopeful that they would make it. But it wasn't supposed to endure. Following that, the reception was held at the stately Corinthos estate, which was chosen for its security and symbolic value. Laura, Curtis, Portia, and even Nina and Carly had put aside their mutual dislike for the occasion. Anna Devane was also present, albeit in a preoccupied and pensive attitude. Drew arrived late, uninvited, and alone. The atmosphere changed from the moment he stepped inside. Conversations grew quieter. Eyes followed him. Trina watched as he made his rounds, smiling and congratulating everyone. But his presence felt obtrusive. She watched him briefly speaking with Anna, sliding a manila package into her palm, and then hastily moving away before anyone could notice. But Trina noticed. She couldn't explain why she followed him out into the hallway. Maybe it was instinct, or maybe it was Anna's concerned expression after opening the envelope. Whatever the cause, she found herself addressing Drew before she had time to consider the repercussions. What was inside that envelope? She questioned, her voice quiet yet forceful. Drew gazed at her, shocked for a second. The familiar mask slid into place. Just something Anna needed to see, he added with a smile. Nothing to worry about, Trina. But Trina was not convinced. Do not lie to me. Not today. Drew's smile vanished. You don't understand the full picture. Then make me understand, she responded. I noticed the look on her face. That was not the information she was expecting. And you've been prowling around for the past month, pretending to be a WSB employee. That struck a nerve. Drew's stance tensed. I don't work for them anymore, he answered quietly. But that doesn't mean I don't have access. Are you spying again? For whom? She inquired, coming closer. Because it's not Anna, and it's sure as hell not the Corinthos family. Drew didn't respond, and the stillness spoke everything. Trina's heart pounded. Drew had been especially interested in Windmere's rebuilding, asking extensive questions about security systems and designs, according to Curtis, which she had rejected a few weeks previously. She assumed it was just idle curiosity. It now appeared strategic. You're gathering intel, she said quietly. You're planning something. I'm protecting people, Drew said. Trina shakes her head. That's what people always say right before they burn everything down. She walked away, but the encounter haunted her. She couldn't ignore the feeling that something enormous was about to happen, and Drew Kane was smack in the middle of it. Meanwhile, inside the reception, Anna had retreated to a quiet place with the envelope Drew had handed her. The photos inside showed CCTV stills of a man meeting with a known guns dealer in Caracas. The man's face was concealed, but his apparel matched Drew's outfit from a brief abroad trip last month, which he said was for deception business. Anna felt terrible. If Drew had gone rogue, if he had joined another criminal organization after everything they'd been through, he would have been not only a threat, but also a traitor. However, Anna also understood Drew. She understood how trauma might alter the moral compass, and how incarceration could remodel the spirit. Perhaps Drew believed he was working the angles for the greater good. Perhaps he had crossed the border and was unsure how to return. Before she could decide what to do next, Trina approached her. What is going on? Trina inquired gently. You saw something in the envelope. I need to know what. Anna hesitated. Trina, you're not part of this investigation. No, Trina replied, stepping forward. But I am a member of this family, and if Drew is going to put us in danger, I need to know. Anna sighed as she noticed her eyes were filled with fierce determination. She handed her the photographs. This doesn't leave this room, she cautioned. Trina's eyes widened as she examined the photographs. That is Drew's watch. His cufflinks. That's him. Anna nodded. I believe he is working both sides, feeding information to someone. Maybe even Victor's old contacts. Trina looked at the photographs again. He's trying to destroy Sonny. Anna frowned. We don't have evidence of that. We will, Trina said, already turning her heel. She did not wait. She stormed back into the party and found Drew talking with Laura, pretending to be interested in the mayor's projects. Trina did not give him a chance to deflect this time. She stepped right up to him and slapped the photos on the table. Do you want to explain this to the rest of us? She said, her voice audible from across the room. Drew's face had lost its color. Where did you get it? From the woman you tried to manipulate, Trina exclaimed. Do you think you're some type of puppet master? Can you dangle false leads and play both sides? Not on my watch. People started to gather. Laura appeared astonished. Curtis crossed to Trina's side. Spencer straightened up, his eyes narrowed at Drew. Are you working against the family? Laura inquired, her voice carefully modulated. Drew looked around at the faces that were suddenly staring at him, with condemnation in the air. I've been trying to stop something before it starts, he stated with defiance. I've been monitoring a network that Victor Cassadine previously attempted to activate. It is not gone. It's regrouping. Who has asked you to track it? Anna cut in. Drew paused. There's someone in the shadows. Someone who does not want their name known yet. Anna stepped forward. You mean someone who's paying you? Drew did not refute it. Trina's heartbeat was racing. She stared at Spencer and then at Daisy, who was softly rocked by Laura. This was not merely a political game. This was life or death. And she was not about to allow another Cassadine-related calamity threaten her daughter. You don't get to use our pain as your cover, Trina told her. You don't get to stand here and pretend you're protecting us while feeding information to whoever will pay the highest price. Drew gazed at her with an unreadable expression. You're just a kid. I'm a mother, she answered coldly. And you just made yourself our enemy. That was the moment everything changed. Lines were formed, and alliances were shattered. Anna requested an emergency security detail to keep Drew under monitoring. Spencer demanded to know how much of his family's business Drew had jeopardized. Carly, horrified, pushed away silently. And Trina grabbed her daughter and left the gathering, her chest tight and her head racing. Later that night, she sat alone in her apartment, Daisy asleep next to her. The burden of what she had done weighed heavily on her shoulders. She had exposed Drew Kane, a man her family had previously trusted, and she had no regrets about it. The world was unsafe. It had not been since Victor's death. Port Charles had too many cracks and concealed hazards. And now that Drew's duplicity had been revealed, the entire city would be on edge. Meanwhile, Anna conducted a thorough inquiry. She questioned Drew using WSB standards, drawing from every file, alias, and slip of documentation he'd touched in the previous 6 months. The more she dug, the worse it appeared. Drew had been giving information regarding Corinthos operations, ports, shipments, and associates. And while he claimed it was part of a plan to infiltrate Victor's remaining network, there were no checks or monitoring. It was entirely freelancing. It's all risky. Anna refused to believe Drew had gone rogue. However, the evidence was overwhelming. Portia confronted him next. Her voice sounded as icy as ice. You became close to my daughter. You entered her home. You watched her hug her kid while undermining everything we battled for. How dare you? Drew tried to apologize, but Portia did not listen. Trina refused to speak with him again. She devoted her efforts into safeguarding Daisy and restoring trust within her small circle. And as the city buzzed with rumors, she remained calm in the midst of the storm. She was no longer only Spencer's partner. She was a power unto her own. And she would ensure that nothing or no one ever harmed her family again. General Hospital spoilers and updates for the week of Monday, June 23rd to Friday, June 27th include dubious plans, birth-parent conversation, and a new baby's christening. Kai Taylor reveals his dubious ideas, Brooke Lynn Quartermain and Dante Falconeri speak, and Daisy Gilmore Corinthos gets baptized. Dubious plans trip down memory lane. On Monday, June 23rd, Kai informs Trina Robinson of his doubtful plans to accept the position given by Drew Kane. Meanwhile, at the Metro Court pool, Curtis and Jordan Ashford take a journey down memory lane. Tracy Quartermain makes a public appearance at a news conference organized by Martin Gray. Meanwhile, Nina Reeves will be taken surprised as she speaks with her desperate daughter Willow Tate. Meanwhile, Portia Robinson is spooked. Mother's pleas, father's reassurance. Carly Spencer pleads with Michael Corinthos on Tuesday, June 24th, and it is likely that she will ask him to keep the kids safe from Drew. Curtis will tell Trina that plans are in place to take Drew down, and she will not have to be concerned about Kai's doubtful decision. In the meantime, Nina seeks assistance from an unlikely source. Could it be to prevent Drew and Willow's marriage? In the meantime, Drew learns some insider knowledge. Portia lashes out. Birth parents talk and obey orders. On Wednesday, June 25th, Gio Palmieri's birth parents, Dante and Brooke Lynn, discuss about him. Elsewhere, Cody Bell follows orders. Is this related to his seduction of Ava Jerome or something else? In the meantime, Alexis Davis seeks Elizabeth Baldwin. Martin has received some awful news, but is it legal, concerning a case, or personal, involving himself or a family member? Elsewhere, Marco Rios makes a delivery. Has he discovered what Brooke Lynn Quartermain Chase asked him to find? New perspectives and advice. Thursday, June 26th. Jason Morgan offers Dante a new perspective. In the meantime, Lulu Spencer gives Lucas Jones some counsel. Carly is apprehensive after talking to Sonny Corinthos. Brooke Lynn dislikes what she sees. What exactly did Marco dig out for her? Or is this about something else? Marco makes a discovery. Is it about what he discovers for Brooke Lynn regarding Britt Westbourne, or about something else? Tough questions at new baby's christening. Daisy's loved ones assemble for her christening on Friday, June 27th. Will Robert Scorpio and Holly Sutton eventually show up? Meanwhile, Anna Devane is confronted with some difficult questions. Meanwhile, Jason and Carly take a trip down memory lane. Maybe during Daisy's baptism, recalling Michael as a newborn. Sonny is in for a surprise, and there isn't much that shocks Sonny, so it had to be big. Finally, Brooklyn and Harrison Chase have a realization. A series of delicate talks and deadly schemes were put into motion in the quiet corners of Port Charles, where whispered secrets tend to fester into chaos, each with the potential to upend the fragile peace that many inhabitants had grown too accustomed to. It started with a simple query, delivered in the midst of a late-night conversation between two people who hadn't spoken openly in years. Nina Reeves sat across from Valentine Cassadine at a small, out-of-the-way table in the Metro Court, her hands wrapped around a chilled mug of tea. The lighting was weak, creating long shadows on the table. She had not phoned him to reminisce. She needed guidance. Perhaps even permission. Perhaps it was only someone who refused to tell her she was incorrect. "It's not that I regret it," Nina murmured gently, her voice shaking with intense, unresolved emotions. "I keep thinking, what if I had known sooner? What if someone had told me the truth when there was still time to change things?" Valentine didn't answer immediately. His eyes stayed riveted on her, unreadable. He grasped that question better than most. They were both adept in the language of regret, but they rarely uttered it out. He sighed and sat back in his chair. "Knowing the truth doesn't always mean you get to do anything about it," he joked. "Sometimes it just makes it harder to live with yourself." The topic of conversation was not new. It had hovered over them for months, ever before Nina discovered that her biological daughter was Nellie Benson, now deceased, and that Willow, the young woman she had grown to love as family, had no genetic ties to her at all. That truth had unraveled Nina, costing her almost everything. But there was something new that required her attention, something more urgent than the ghosts of the past. A baby. Willow and Michael had planned a christening for their newborn baby, Emma Grace. The ceremony was supposed to be simple and lovely, with only family and close friends present. However, the event had become a symbol for Nina, which she could not ignore. She'd already missed so much. She wanted to be a part of it, to restore some kind of connection, even if it came through a grandchild rather than the daughter she had never actually known. The trouble was that Willow had not invited her. Michael hadn't spoken to her for weeks. It wasn't out of cruelty, but the wounds between them had yet to heal. Nina's actions, particularly her role in Sonny's absence and subsequent falsehoods, had caused fractures that could not be repaired with a smile or a phone call. Nonetheless, Nina refused to sit still when her heart prompted her to act. Valentine knew this about her, and he could see the plan coming together in her head before she uttered it aloud. "I could just go," she said quietly, barely above a breath. "Show up. Avoid making a scene. Just be there. Quietly. For her." Valentine's eyes narrowed. "Do you believe that will fix things?" "I don't know," Nina acknowledged. "But maybe it starts something." Another discourse was taking place somewhere else in town, one considerably more challenging than a grandmother's wish to reconnect. Brooklyn Quartermain and Harrison Chase sat in a booth by the window of a tiny cafe near the courthouse, watching the world go by in silence as they prepared for the type of conversation that no couple relishes. The adoption had gone through. After months of legal challenges and social worker visits, they were finally the parents of Aria Rose, a wide-eyed newborn girl who had already won their hearts. But now came the difficult part, talking about the birth parents. Brooklyn has been dreading this for weeks. Chase had always expressed a desire to retain transparency, but Brooklyn was concerned about the consequences of reopening that door. The birth mother, a young woman named Elise, had originally agreed to a closed adoption, but she had lately contacted us, wanting an update on the baby. "There is no legal contact, only a letter. Maybe a photograph." Brooklyn had strongly opposed it. She didn't want to make Aria's life more complicated. But Chase, the pair's steady compass, viewed things differently. "She gave us a gift," he explained gently. "The least we can do is let her know her daughter's okay." Brooklyn fiddled with the edge of her napkin. What if she wants more? What if this is only the beginning of something we cannot stop? "She can't change her mind," Chase told her. "The adoption is finalized. She has no legal rights." "But legality isn't everything," Brooklyn mumbled. "This is not about court paperwork. This is about emotions, people, and limits, which will get messy no matter how careful we are." The truth was that she wasn't only concerned about the birth mother. She was concerned about herself. How she'd react if Arya ever looked at someone else with the same love she wished to acquire for herself. Chase noticed it all over her face and went across the table to take her hand. "Let's send the letter," he suggested. "One photograph. There are no promises beyond that. But we must do the right thing. For her. And for Arya." Brooklyn nodded slowly. It was not easy, but she trusted Chase. She always has. Back at the Quartermain estate, preparations for Emma Grace's christening were underway. Olivia Falconeri was in charge of the flower arrangements, while Willow went across the sitting area with her baby on her hip, attempting to remain focused. But her heart was elsewhere. Specifically, the note she discovered slipped into her mailbox that morning. Unsigned but definitely from Nina. It had been brief. There are no pleadings for pardon. There are no attempts to rewrite the history. Just a simple message. "I understand why I have not been invited. I do not plan to attend. I just want you to know that I love her. And I will always adore you, no matter how far away I am." It should have made her upset. However, it made her ache. She recalled her final confrontation with Nina, the tears, the shouting, and the terrible disclosures. Willow had tried to cut her off for good. But love didn't just go away, even when it hurt. She wasn't sure what to do with the letter. She hadn't informed Michael about it yet. She wasn't certain she would. As the christening approached, tensions grew in quiet corners. Carly was on high alert, trying to keep Nina far away from the situation. She had increased security at the church, not because she expected Nina to crash it violently, but because Carly never trusted anyone not to raise a scene when it came to her family. Especially not Nina, whose desperation often clouded her judgment. But Nina hadn't made any further moves. She remained mute, which was more disturbing. The day of the christening began with bright sky and gentle spring winds. The chapel was magnificently decorated, with white lilies and baby's breath hanging over each row. The Corinthos and Quartermain families gathered in quiet joy, each with their own personal reflections on what this occasion meant. For Willow, it represented survival. For Michael, it was a chance for regeneration. For others, it was a sad reminder of people who were not present, Brando for example. Kiki. Even Nellie's shadow lingered in every family shot, whether they admitted it or not. The ceremony was brief yet poignant. The priest anointed Emma Grace's forehead, and the child cooed softly, her big eyes sweeping the vaulted ceiling. There were no interruptions or surprise guests. Nina, however, observed from a distance. She stood outside the church in her car, hiding behind tinted glass, her gaze fixed on the doors. She did not mean to go inside. She only needed to see that it was true, that her grandchild was surrounded by affection. She hadn't expected anything more. She was unaware that Willow had seen her. Willow lingered near the steps as the audience gathered in the reception hall. For a long time she said nothing. Then she turned and proceeded approaching the automobile, knocking once on the window. Nina rolled it down slowly, her expression pallid and startled. "I saw you," Willow admitted. "And I read your letter." "I wasn't going to intrude," Nina said, her voice breaking. "I know." They stood silently. "I don't know what we are anymore," Willow acknowledged. "But I think I'm ready to find out." A solitary tear streamed down Nina's cheek. That's all I ever hoped for. They didn't share an embrace. They did not offer any commitments. But Willow gave a glance toward the church behind them. "Come inside. For the photos at least." And with that, the door cracked open. Meanwhile, across town, Brooklyn trembled as she placed a stamped envelope in a mailbox. Inside, there was a photo of Arya smiling bright-eyed and surrounded by affection. No letter. No explanations. Just a moment in time. She took a step back and sighed deeply, as if to relieve a weight from her chest. Chase joined her and wrapped his arm around her waist. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I don't know," she replied. "But I think we're doing the right thing." As the sun fell over Port Charles, the streets became quiet. However, in homes and hearts, change was brewing. Forgiveness did not come easily. Trust did not rebuild immediately. But for once, everyone had chosen a better option than bitterness. They'd selected the first step. And at Port Charles, the initial step could be crucial. General Hospital spoilers suggest that we have a July sweeps preview for you. So let's talk about all the highs and lows that await in Port Charles. Some amazing tales will take center stage, with fans expecting dramatic disclosures and a long-awaited comeback. For starters, chaos could break out when Willow Tate and Drew Kane race to the altar. Disaster could hit since Willow appears to be standing firm and moving forward with her hasty wedding plans. Could Tracy Quartermaine reveal Drew's hookups with Nina Reeves and derail the ceremony? Could Nina spill the beans to stop the wedding and keep Willow from becoming Drew's wife? Whatever the case, Willow's emotional state will undoubtedly play a major component in her scenes this July. The program is dropping strong signs that Willow is blacking out and unintentionally pursuing Sasha Gilmore Corbin's newborn girl. With that in mind, Daisy may be targeted for kidnapping if Willow's situation worsens. Brooke Lynn Quartermaine's retribution plot could cause significant problems for Lulu Spencer and her family. Fans are undoubtedly most interested in the Britt Westbourne tie-in. It's no coincidence that Britt's identity and past are surfacing now. That's because Kelly Thibault is returning for the July sweeps, though it's unclear if she'll be reprising her role as Britt or portraying a new character. Could the answer be discovered in Professor Henry Hank Dalton's secret laboratory? The show has emphasized the lab a lot in recent months, so they must show us what's inside sooner or later. Could Jocelyn Jacks and Jason Morgan's separate investigations into Dalton collide for Britt's eventual rescue? There has been considerable speculation regarding a cloning storyline, which could play a factor in Britt's return explanation. Whether Britt is the real deal or a clone, it will be great to see Kelly Thibault back on film. Sonny Corinthos will also be at the center of some developing drama, so we'll see if his greatest fear is prison or further lethal attempts on his life. Michael Corinthos' custody win could be in risk. Jen Sidwell bought Michael's win, but it could be reversed if the bribery reality is revealed. Finally, Cody Bell's seduction of Ava Jerome may take an unexpected turn. If Cody begins to fall for Ava or tips her off in any way, Christina Corinthos Davis' grand scheme could fail. According to General Hospital spoilers, Christina may need to make changes to her plan if terrible news arrives, so keep an eye out. The summer heat settled over Port Charles, creating a palpable tension that appeared to permeate every discussion, lingering glance and closed-door meeting. The city's regular pace, which was already defined by secrets and falsehoods, slowed beneath the weight of anticipation. July has always been a tumultuous month, but this year it wasn't just about the rising temperatures. It was something deeper, something sharper, and Sonny Corinthos stood in the midst of the approaching storm. It began with whispers, speculations of a developing war beyond Sonny's control. For years, he had kept a precarious peace with neighboring areas, establishing himself not only as a crime boss, but also as Port Charles's protector. His reign was severe when necessary but fair overall. That was changing. Strange faces began emerging on the docks. Old allies suddenly fell mute. Key shipments were missing, were redirected, or intercepted. Sonny's lieutenants were on edge and Brick, who was generally a calm presence, had started calling at odd hours with updates that sounded more like warnings. Sonny attempted to remain calm. He had survived ambushes, betrayals, government inquiries, and even near-fatal incidents. But this time seemed different. He couldn't pinpoint a single source for the confusion that persisted. Even Jason, who had recently returned to Port Charles and was keeping his distance, approached Sonny discreetly, concerned. "Something's off," he'd said. "And it's not just business." The anxiety seeped into Sonny's personal life, which was already unstable. His connection with Nina had deteriorated into frigid silence and cautious, brief exchanges. The aftermath of her betrayal reverberated throughout his home. Though they shared the same space, they were no longer on the same emotional level. He could not bring himself to forgive her, and she, in turn, had begun to wander away, not toward redemption but rather escape. Donna questioned why Nina no longer reads her bedtime stories. Sonny couldn't respond. He simply promised Donna that no matter what occurred, she would always be secure. That pledge felt heavier each time he said it. The Quartermaines were likewise braced for contact. Michael had withdrawn from ELQ for the time being, focused on his family, but his suspicions about Sonny had not decreased. Willow could feel it as well, a sense that something dangerous was on its way. She began raising inquiries about the house's security, and whether the children should be sent away for the summer. Michael assured her that they were okay, but Willow had seen that expression in his eyes before. He was ready for battle.